Okay. So, I've had a theory for quite some time, and I want to put it out there because even though I've never really done any extensive scientific research to back up this theory, it's just one of those things where you kind of figure something out and it makes sense and you don't really need to explain why. So, when I was 17, I was in my grandmother's basement and I was watching the Discovery Channel, and it was a show about some astronauts in space, uh, basically just kind of flying around, studying things, like playing, messing around, having fun, and doing like silly little experiments. And there's this one guy who had a spray bottle, and it was full of water, and they were in zero gravity, so when he sprayed the water, all these little tiny little drops of water came out and they were all floating around. It was so pretty. And after a couple of minutes, all of these little particles of water came in and formed this tiny little ball, like about this big. And it was just floating there in front of him. And he was just kind of like poking at it and just, playing with it. And God, my God, side note, that would be the most amazing thing ever. I'd love if that was my life. But anyway, so yeah, he's got this ball of water. And he starts taking, now why these were on the rocket ship, I have no idea. But there were these tiny little dried chrysanthemum flowers. And they were flattened. And, so they were paper thin, maybe even more. And he was taking them with tweezers and he was sticking them onto this ball on different places under this ball of water, which was just floating in the air, or lack of air rather. And one of the other astronauts came by and she was like, oh, that's cool, are they getting sucked into the ball and kind of like floating around inside? And he said, no, they're sticking to the surface with surface tension. And suddenly it just kind of clicked and made perfect sense to me. That's the earth. All my life I had been told that, or kind of led to believe that the earth was this kind of crevassed, just ball. If you took all the water off the earth, it would just kind of be this like really perforated little sphere, with all these holes. And then it kind of made more sense to me that really, as opposed to the earth being, this land with water on it, it was more that it was this water with land on it. And basically what I realized is that, so this guy has this little tiny ball of water about this big. The chrysanthemum flowers were so thin, they did have a density, a mass, but it was a good amount that was going to be able to stick to this little ball. Now, if he had taken that water bottle that he used and stuck that to the ball, it wouldn't have worked. But if he had a ball of water that was, this big, maybe that water bottle would stick on there. And if so, it's not just going to stick on the outside. It's going to go into the water a little bit, maybe a couple inches. Because this chrysanthemum flower was, in the most minute way, going down into that water just a little bit. But, some of it was staying out as well. And basically, what I deduced is that, if you had a ball of water that was big enough and you had two masses, let's call them, continents, that were stuck on either side, there was going to be a mass and density of water that was going to allow for those two things to go in as far as they could and touch in the middle. But the water had to be big enough. The sphere of water had to be big enough. Just big enough. Okay? So now this is going to bring up things like, what about Pangea? Yes, the continents look as though they could have been at one time connected. Totally. That's what they look like. Does that mean they were once connected? Maybe. But it also could mean something else. It could mean that if you take a cross section of anywhere in the earth, there's going to be this ratio that is universal. And so if you were to dig in the ground anywhere, you're going to find kind of like whatever kind of match needs to be sort of on the other side. A match that's going to allow for the earth to retain that spherical shape. It needs to have this balance. So that's the type of thing that you're going to find. And so that's kind of why it looks sort of like a puzzle, but it's really like more like a cross-section equality puzzle type of bigger thing than that. So that's basically how I justify that aspect of what we've studied in concerning the Earth. So just coming back to the beginning with the scientists in space, if we think of that rocket ship as this zero gravity but sort of contained, a little contained bit of zero gravity, we can relate that to our solar system and sort of the sun's gravitational pull being the area that is contained. Okay, zero gravity, but it's contained. So any amount of water swarming around in our solar system is going to do just what that little tiny ball did with this from the spray bottle, come all together until it's a sphere. And so this is why I think that there is none to extremely, extremely little amounts of water in the rest of the solar system. What is out there is frozen, so it's sort of not really mobile. It's kind of stuck there. And I think it might have just gotten kind of mixed up, wasn't really supposed to be there. Yes, on Mars and a couple of other moons, I think, there looks like there used to be some water flowing around in there, and that might be true. I feel like maybe since it's so much water and the solar system is so unbelievably massive, that some water might have been kind of mixing around on other planets, doing its thing, being a river or whatnot. But eventually it kind of all, or 99.99999% of it, came together to be the Earth. And then either by accident or who knows what, these masses of rock came in to it, and that ball of water was just the right size to allow for those bits of water to meet in the bits of rock to meet in the center on just an even amount of sides. Now, yeah, the core of the Earth is molten rock, okay? What happens to rock when it's under the immense pressure of, all of this water surrounding it, the inside of the Earth, The water was here first. The rock came, dug itself down so deep that it was able to meet with another piece of rock, and in that middle of the Earth where the pressure is just unfathomable, it just kind of all heated up and melted. Pressure creates heat, and it creates just different environment. So, and then water will condense and evaporate on its own. That's what it does. That's what it does when it's introduced to heat from the sun. So, this creates our atmosphere. And so that's how water cleans itself. I think we're pretty much familiar with all of these concepts. It's just putting them all into the same thought. Like I said, that's how water cleans itself. So in turn, that's how the earth cleans itself. It's how the earth, keeps itself going, stabilizes itself, and it's sort of this immortal being. I really think of the earth as being alive in and of itself, almost breathing with the tides caused by the moon, which is definitely there for just that reason. But I just think it's really important to understand that the water was here first. And what's really, really profound about this whole thing is that all you needed was water. Everything else just kind of came into itself. So say, the solar system next door, say it has the capability of, say it has hydrogen, say it has, hydrogen and oxygen floating around in there. Say, those molecules come together, right, and form water, and say that there's, a significant amount of it, and say that it all combines together, and then say that some rock is flying by and gets sucked into its surface tension, and then the water will evaporate around its own gravity and create that force field of atmosphere, rains down. The molten rock from the inside gets so hot from the pressure that it comes out as sort of like new rock, or like cleansed rock, if you will, like I was saying with the water and how it cleanses itself. The rock is sort of cleansing itself too from the inside. It's getting rid of impurities and just coming out fresh and brand new and springing wonderfully abundant with life, everything that life needs. Then it mixes with the water, and this, I feel like there's definitely a reason for Mercury and Venus, all of them, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, their composition, their size, and their place away from the sun. And the fact that the earth is where it is not just an accident. It's not divine, it's physics. And there is a reason why Mercury and Venus are there before the sun. The gaseous planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune in our solar system are spherical perfectly because they're made out of gas. And because that's what gas does, even if it's in liquid form, that's what it does. It comes together uniformly and creates spheres such as the earth. But that's why they're spherical. And water just has this amazing composition that, it can be a gas, but it can form this liquid, and it can also hold things together with surface tension. I feel like that the opportunity for that to exist in so many other solar systems, maybe every other solar system, is almost guaranteed. And there's going to be one moon doing the same thing on another terrestrial planet, if in fact we ever find one. There is definitely life beyond this. We're just in this piece of time. I feel like eventually we're going to be able to go there. We're going to be able to see these other creatures. The chance of them being extremely Earth-like are also almost guaranteed, because the terrestrial life producing planet is this distance from the sun, is composed of what it's composed of for a reason, to make life. And it's just going to happen as it has. If someone can confirm that theory somehow, I mean, for me, it doesn't even need to be confirmed, it just makes perfect sense. But yeah, if someone can confirm that theory, it may be a key link in the process of, this human race finding possibly another human race, or a planet that's far more evolved than humans, or a planet with cavemen still on it, or a planet with dinosaurs still on it, or a planet with amoebas and that's all, and an Earth-like planet in any stage of its development. Maybe just knowing what we are and how we got here will spark someone else's, imagination, and maybe someone else will be inspired as I was, and think of something else that can help us towards that, ultimate goal. And like I said, people are gonna say stuff about, the tectonic plates. Well, they are separate big giant pieces of rock, so they're just connected at the center, and because the center is liquid, the parts that have cooled, that aren't so pressurized, can float around on top of that liquid, but the water was here first, and I feel like that just should be known, whether it's going to help us find other terrestrial life-giving water planets, or whether it doesn't really matter at all. I feel like it still should just be known, instead of kind of having this really strange theory of this land being here first. I mean, of course people think that, we're Earth-centric, we're land-centric, and we just happen to be on the land part, but it doesn't mean that that's why it's here. We just happen to be here, and we happen to have gained this miraculous gift of profound intelligence, and also this profound imagination, and whatever sparks your interest, whatever sparks my interest, whatever sparks anybody's interest, whatever makes us imagine, we shouldn't be afraid to put that out there, which is basically why I'm doing this today. And whatever makes us think, we should always explore that, we should always delve into that, we should always make that a priority in our lives, because it's very important. I don't know why it's important, but it just feels important, and so therefore it's important. That's pretty much it. So anybody, very open to comments, very open to criticism. Just leave them down below. Thanks for listening. I hope that at least one person is a little bit, even if all this does is make you think, it's good. Please think. It's good.